but you're not going to write the good one if you don't write the other ones. If you don't try to write them all, you go through it, you write the bad book, and maybe later down the line it turns into a better book. Maybe it turns into a
Hmm.
great short story. Maybe it turns into like a legendary haiku. I don't know, but
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in that nothing is ever wasted. You know, I think nothing is wasted. Our experiences are not wasted, good or bad. Our work is not wasted. But you got to do it. You've got to get down there and do it and not be too hung up on succeeding at it.
Today on the show, we are featuring a brand new docuseries titled The First Word on Horror. This series of documentaries features 5 of some of the finest modern day writers in the horror genre, and today we are joined with one of them. Her name is Elizabeth Hand, and Beyond Horror has won so many different awards for writing, and we even dive into her work and some things she did totally for fun for her kids, like the Star Wars Boba Fett series, X-Files, bunch of comic books, and around hearing some of her history. She is a writing teacher and shares with us some awesome things that she tells her students that you can take with you if you're a writer yourself or just an all-around creative. Liz is an absolute gem. This series is so cool. Beyond being a documentary, each one of these authors are telling a short story of their own. In diving in and out of their interview, it's showing an animation of their horror short stories, and it's so unique. You can get it on video on demand. Like I mentioned, it's The First Word on Horror. And yeah, let's get into this talk with Liz right now.
Just want to say I love how unique this series is. Not only are you telling a short story of your own, but I love how it's clipping back to you and having like these biographical like interviews of your life and everything around it. It's such a unique way to tell a story. And one thing that really stood out to me was right at the beginning, you were talking about how a lot of like the stories throughout your whole career you have been pulling from real life situations. And I just want to know, like, just as an artist and a writer, is there like some kind of like cathartic thing to that, or like almost therapeutic thing to take these issues or stuff like that that's going on and like turn it onto the page?
I don't know that it's cathartic. In a way, it's more like it's useful.
Yeah.
It's like having a battery or a charger that I can plug into and I can draw the energy from that and
Mm,
then use it in my work. So it's in a way it I mean it might sound perverse or ironic to say that it's exhilarating because sometimes it's drawing on some very dark experiences, but
mhm,
there is this sort of exhilaration in taking it because it's energizing and it's a way of taking control. It's a way of taking control of situations and experiences that when they actually occurred I was not in control, but
mhm,
I was able to take that experience and that energy and turn it on its head. So it's not even so much that you can one is rewriting his personal history or experience, but one is just tapping into that energy and transforming it into something that ideally has kind of a beauty to it. And if it doesn't have beauty, at least it has a kind of power to it.
mhm,
And then sharing that. I mean, that is a really powerful thing to be able to do, to have that kind of control and then feel like, not everything I write always hits the mark, and not
mhm,
everything I write draws on, the same experiences by a long shot, but
mhm.
taking something and then knowing that it works because it doesn't always, that's like, yeah, I did it. That's a great feeling. So I don't know that I would call it cathartic.
Mhm.
Unless like somebody, I don't know, landing a field goal or something,
Yeah.
or making a basket is cathartic. It's more, it's more just really great energy.
Yeah, that's cool to hear. And yeah, I actually like brought that up because it's been kind of like a common theme in these interviews. I've talked to like musicians and comedians, and even like a comedian recently was telling me it's like one of his best jokes came from one of the darkest moments of his life, but it almost like what you mentioned, that energy and him putting it onto the page and then saying it in front of an audience, it almost like in a way dominates that moment and like having control, and almost like it's like artists sometimes are therapists to themselves in a way, whether they know it or not, as they're doing the process.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think one thing like a lot of different creatives like listen to these segments too. And one thing I loved was you talking about something you say to your students of how you don't have to be good at everything, but if you find your thing and lean into it, like the magic happens. And do you want to touch on a little bit of that?
Yeah, I mean, just for myself, I'm not great at plot, okay?
Hmm.
I know I'm not good at plot. Um, and I've always known I'm not good at plot, but I've written, I don't know, 20 or 21 novels now, and I don't know how many short stories and novellas. I've written a lot of stuff, okay? And it's gotten published, and some of it has won awards and, gotten good reviews, all of that stuff. I'm saying that not to humble brag, but because, or brag outright, but just to say I'm not good at the thing that a lot of people read for. So people read my stuff for other reasons. So they read it for, characterization or dialogue or setting or I don't know what, atmosphere, something else. So if you can figure out what you're good at, and I do tell my students that, my MFA students and other students, you figure out what you're good at and lean into that. You don't need to worry so much about the other stuff. Yeah, obviously I need to have something for a plot. I can't write, something that doesn't have any plot at all.
Hmm.
Which is one reason why, some of my stories I take, I take a legend or a myth or something that's pre-existing, and then I build on that. Um, but I'm able to compensate, for what I know is not my strong suit. But I think it's important to know that it's not your one strong suit. I think it's important to know that, hey, I'm not good at that. Rather, if you're not good, and to try to get better at it. It's not like I don't want to have I would love to be a great plotter. I try to be a better, I promise. I try to be a better plotter.
Yeah.
I'm trying so hard. And I think I have gotten better. Some people might argue, but I think I've gotten better. Maybe it was a low bar to start with. But
Yeah.
but you can make up for it in other ways. And I do try to do that. And I do try to encourage other writers to do that. Find what your strength is and really play to that. Really play to that.
Hmm.
It's like, you're the Ramones. You're not
Hmm.
like a jazz trio. You're not Bill Evans. You're not whoever, but you're the Ramones. So do that. Do what you do really well with that energy. And if you're, somebody else, do that really well. But try to figure out and give yourself the time to figure out what that is.
Yeah, yeah. I find like sometimes artists too, when they have that moment where they really do lean into their thing, it turns into like something like unique that other people can't replicate because it's coming truly from themselves. And I find like sometimes when somebody's trying to do everything at once, maybe they're doing the craft, but it just seems bland and comparable, like you mentioned the Ramones and everything too, and they just leaned into their strengths and it turned into legendary music and stuff like that. And what would Liz, what would you think is like your biggest strength and maybe like something you saw in yourself when you started writing where you're like felt like this is really my thing that I'm going to lean into?
Well, I found with my fourth novel, Waking the Moon, which came out 30 years ago, it it was mostly a first person narrator, and the protagonist shared a lot of qualities and experiences with me, and and people really liked it. There was also a third person narrative that went back and forth, but people really liked that character. People really liked that voice, and I thought, oh, wait a minute, I can do this. I can like channel elements of myself in the first person, and people will relate to it because they feel like, even, not, it's not necessarily that they like this person, but they recognize that person, and they want to, maybe hang around with them for a while and hear what they have to say.
Mhm.
So, and with Generation Loss and the Castaneri novels, I wrote a series of four noir novels, very dark noir novels. And again, those are all told in the first person. And that is a voice that is actually very close to my own voice and experience. And that, I think, was something a lot of people really related to. A lot of people, not just my age, but or younger, related to somebody who had grown up as I did in New York in the 70s and was kind of immersed in the punk era, and then they find themselves stranded in the 21st century, in a world in which art and the arts and so many things have been degraded. And but you have to keep going, you have to keep living. So I think that that character and that voice, a lot of people connected with. And so I somewhere along the way, I found out that I had a knack for doing that. Not with all my stories or novels. I studied drama at university, a million years ago, and I was not good at it. And I burned out on it after 3 years and dropped out. And eventually went back and got a degree in cultural anthropology. But I had done some acting in high school and then in college, and I'm a terrible actor. I'm a horrible actor, but I found that I could take what I learned as an aspiring playwright, um, and aspiring actor at one point. I could take that material and information and experience and make use of it in writing. Um, and that was something I just stumbled on. I stumbled on it by
Yeah, yeah.
failing at the things I started out doing. I stumbled by failing as an actor, failing as a playwright. I failed at a lot of things. I always wanted to be a writer since I was really young, but I kind of got seduced by the dark side, thinking, yeah, I'm gonna be an actress. Do
Yeah.
that. Be a playwright. I'm gonna be Tom Stoppard. Um,
Yeah.
and
I was a
yeah,
similar personality 10 years ago, just trying to do it all type of thing and like everything you're
yeah,
passionate about. Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, yeah, even I think that's like very important like for people to hear too. Even though you had that experience doing that and you didn't fully pursue it or whatever, at the end of the day it wasn't a failure because you got the perspective and that's going into your other work and like I don't know, you can't teach perspective and stuff like that. This is like something that you have to do in bed so in yourself. So some people who might be doing a course and maybe they drop out, they could think, get too much in their head. It's like, oh, I failed, but you can always fail upwards. Like you take what you got in that circle and bring it with you other places and everything.
Yeah, yeah, the whole what's become a cliche, the whole notion of failing better. But yeah, I teach in an MFA program and taught writing workshops all over. But I tell people all the time, I said it takes just as much energy and commitment and time to write a bad novel as it does to write a good one. And I know because I've written some, I've written books that I know, so, were not published. I had to go back and rewrite them sometimes several times before they were published. And I've written books, some books that were not as good as others, you know, but you're not going to write the good one if you don't write the other ones. If you don't try to write them all, you go through it, you write the bad book, and maybe later down the line, it turns into a better book. Maybe it turns into a
Mhm.
great short story. Maybe it turns into like a legendary haiku. I don't know. But
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in that nothing is ever wasted. You know, I think nothing is wasted. Our experiences are not wasted, good or bad. Our work is not wasted. But you got to do it. You've got to get down there and do it and not be too hung up on succeeding at it that you don't put yourself through um, endless torment
Yeah. And
before
amazing.
you get the book done.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. And I also love like your spirit of like even like though you do this horror stuff, you make moments to have fun. Like you did the Boba Fett series. I saw you do New
Oh
Titans,
yeah.
bunch of comic books, superheroes and stuff like that. You feel like it's cool to like just jump back and forth? Like is it healthy on your brain to like kind of always keep it inspired by not pigeonholing yourself all the time?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it was great. I love, like those Boba Fett books were a hoot. They were so much fun. My son was 10 years old. He was a huge Boba Fett fan, and my
Oh,
stepson a
amazing.
few years older. So I got that opportunity, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm totally jumping on that. But yeah, it's fun. I remember people doing that. I did some novelizations. I did the novelization for 12 Monkeys, and I
Hmm.
don't know, Fight the Future, the X-Files movie, some, a
Wow.
bunch of things. And people ask me, they're like, do you want to publish these under your own name? I'm like, why not? I wrote them.
Yeah, of course.
I'm not ashamed of that. I wrote them. I mean, they paid the bills. They put food on the table. They were fun. My kids liked
Hmm.
them. Like I got so much great fan mail from third grade boys for those Boba Fett books. I tell
Oh,
you,
that's
it
cool.
was the greatest thing. It was the greatest thing ever. And sometimes on social media, somebody will tell me, he's grown up now. It's like, oh my God, I loved your Boba books. I never read anything when I was a kid, but I loved reading those books. And I'm like, yeah. So no, why wouldn't I want to own that? I was proud of those books. They,
Yeah,
they
hell
were
yeah.
they were great. Yeah, exactly. Hell
Yeah,
yeah.
you're a piece of
You know?
Star Wars, X-Files, like DC
Yeah,
Comics. That's awesome. That's like
yeah,
so
yeah. The
cool.
only
And
one I would disown would be the Catwoman with the novelization of
okay.
Catwoman. But even that had some. I was able to get some fun out of that. So
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And even like as like a final question, I'm running out of time with you. I wish I could talk to you for like 3 hours, but I just want to know, are you working on anything right now? Anything new in the shadows? And can you talk about it or like even give us a
yeah,
little sneak peek or
I am. I'm working on a novel called Unspeakable Things. It's a riff. It's very loosely inspired by Daphne du Maurier's Rebecca. It's sort of a queer riff on that. It's set in 1920s London, well, London and Cornwall, in the UK in the 1920s, and yeah, it's got one of the few police women who was on the force at the time in London, a fictional character. But yeah, so it's a lot of fun. It's dark, but it's a change from it's a historical novel, so it's a change from the darkness that we're living in right now.
yeah.
It's nice to go somewhere else dark on vacation in my head.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, so I'm working on that.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I'm gonna look forward to that, and I'm gonna like I'm basically from this series. I'm a brand new fan of you, Liz. So I'm gonna be something just fell in my house. I don't know if that
Ooh.
picked up on the mic, ghosts. But anyways, what I'm saying is like I'm a brand new fan. I'm gonna start following your newer work, and hopefully down the road I can talk to you again because I really loved your energy and I enjoyed this conversation today.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Sean. Yeah, it's a pleasure. It'd be great to catch up with you again. It was a lot of fun.
Hope you enjoyed that talk with Elizabeth Hand. Like we mentioned, this documentary, First Word on Horror, is available right now on video on demand. Go check it out. Throw it in the googly mooglies. You'll be able to find it. And around Elizabeth's 3-part episode, I recommend you check out the other episodes with the other authors. It's so unique. Awesome. You get a short story, you get some cool animation, and also these segments where you get to know the mind and soul of the authors writing these short stories. And before we go, like always, we can't run away without thanking all you legends on the Patreon page. And first up, huge thank you to the Queen Ola Mazuka of Sonic Fold, Amanda McKnight of the Vamp X13 YouTube channel and the Vamp X13 Twitch channel. Check out Amanda McKnight if you're into comic books, movies, video games, and all things nerdy. That's Vamp X13. And another huge thanks to the wonderful Jenny Potter, the legend Devin McBride, back-to-back double impact Allens, the #1 gent Alan Kent, and bigwig Alan Briggs, and last but not least, Francis Coffer, aka my mom. If you want to get a shout out at the end of every episode and also get these episodes early, raw, uncut, right when I'm done the Zoom call, I just post them. You can go to patreon.com/thecreative-imbalance. It's only $4 a month, and beyond having my forever thanks, you can just go to bed at night and sleep soundly, knowing you're a badass motherfucker who supports raw, uncut, independent media, and nobody can take that away from you. You hear me? And with that being said, we got a lot more interviews coming your way. My next batch is coming all the way from Comic-Con, Toronto Comic-Con. I got to be there representing the Creative Imbalance at the Canadian Podcast Award booth. Thanks to them for letting me showcase my stuff, kiss some hands, shake some babies, see the people. I do this in my basement. It was so inspiring and important to kind of get out and meet people. There's a couple people I only knew from Instagram that I met in person. It's so cool. And then around that, we did some awesome interviews, like our next one that's dropping with a man named George Buza, who was Beast on the original X-Men animated series in the 90s, who came back last year as Beast once again in X-Men 97. And we have a beautiful conversation, and that's coming up on the channel in a couple days. Hope you enjoyed this one. Hope you enjoy that one. Hope you have a great weekend. Love you and talk to you soon. Mwah.